Hey everyone, Greg Staley here of Diverge Media. Today we're going to be talking about government-sanctioned human trafficking, the temporary foreign worker problem in Canada. This issue is more pervasive than Canadians are willing to admit, are even aware of. The reality of the temporary foreign worker program is staggering. The abuses in it are overwhelming. And I don't think, after our examination of the temporary foreign worker program and a very in-depth research into it, that it is fixable. I don't think so. The very nature of this program is problematic through and through. All right, let's get into it. The United Nations has said that Canada's temporary foreign worker program, TFW program, serves as a breeding ground for contemporary forms of slavery. That's right. The United Nations, you know that the United Nations, the same United Nations that liberals love to quote and talk about all the time when it suits their agenda. Yeah, they've said that Canada's temporary foreign worker program, let me repeat this slowly for the liberals that may watch this. It serves as a breeding ground for contemporary forms of slavery. Round of applause, Trudeau. You started this. And I would just add, before we even get into it, Trudeau was against the temporary foreign worker program when Harper was in government.
Allow the temporary foreign workers program to become a force that drives down wages across the country and takes advantage of vulnerable people from abroad.
Isn't it funny how quick things change when the right people whisper in the ears of our politicians? The United Nations says it's a contemporary breeding ground serves as a breeding ground for contemporary forms of slavery. And yet, Mark Carney, after Pierre Poilievre announced that the Conservative Party wanted to scrap the temporary foreign worker program, he hinted that he's hearing that we might need more temporary foreign workers.
The biggest contributor to immigration is not temporary foreign workers, it's a variety of other factors. And I will say, et je vais répéter en français parce que c'est important, when I talk to businesses around the country, particularly in Quebec, but elsewhere across the country, their number one issue is tariffs, and their number two issue is access to temporary foreign workers. Okay?
He's hinting that we might need more temporary foreign workers, not less. So I'll read quickly from the United Nations report on the Special Rapporteur on Contemporary Forms of Slavery. This is where the United Nations calls Canada out for allowing a breeding ground for contemporary forms of slavery. It says Canada has a well-deserved reputation for welcoming immigrants. However, to make this a reality where all newcomers enjoy decent work and an adequate standard of living, Canada should end labor migration agreements that foster exploitation by creating dependency situations that tie workers to their employers and give employers control over the workers' housing, healthcare, and migration status. The Special Rapporteur retains the view that the temporary foreign worker program serves as a breeding ground for contemporary forms of slavery as it institutionalizes asymmetries of power that favor employers and prevent workers from exercising their rights. And I'm going to break this down really simply. They're here on a work permit through this temporary foreign worker program. If you don't like it, they're going to send your rear end home. You speak out about the living conditions, about the employment conditions, about, hey, I'm being expected to come in on last minute's notice. You're gone. That's how scummy employers are treating this program. And so the United Nations brought it upon themselves in this report to say, listen, this is serving as a breeding ground for contemporary forms of slavery. It's not just, everybody's upset about all these temporary foreign workers, and I understand they're taking Canadian jobs, but the flip side of this, again, multifaceted, this problem, and many different things true at the same time, is that these foreigners that are coming in under this program are being taken advantage of, and the government, and we will get into it, is allowing it. In fact, I would say encouraging it by their behavior. It's disgusting, and I'm actually like physically upset in talking about this. Like, I'm going to try to keep everything in check here, but it's so much worse than just jobs being taken from Canadians. I agree with the United Nations report that says it's a breeding ground for contemporary forms of slavery. Abuse of foreigners seeking a better life through the TFW program is all too common. Now, there is huge profits to be made in scamming foreigners that are coming to Canada through the country's temporary foreign worker program. I don't think Canadians understand how bad this issue is. According to one immigration consultant, some foreigners are paying up to $60,000 for an LMIA, which is a labor market impact assessment in Ontario. Now, the LMIA is required before you need to prove that, hey, we did this labor market impact assessment, no Canadians wanted the job, therefore we need a foreigner. We need a temporary foreign worker to come fill the position. Now, the actual cost, for perspective, foreigners paying up to $60,000 for this LMIA in Ontario. The actual cost of an LMIA, $1,000, just $1,000. Why is there $59,000 in discrepancy? That's right, because the consultants, immigration consultants, and scummy employers, scummy immigration consultants, scummy employers are taking advantage of these people and bringing them into an exploitive situation on top of it. How does the Canadian government deal with people that are abusing foreigners through this system? They don't. They rarely do, and we'll get into this right now. The going rate, 60 grand in Ontario. The prices vary by province. One example of this was how one Ontario woman charged 35 foreign workers illegal recruitment fees and was still allowed to operate.
Permits, golden tickets to a new life in Canada. Stories like these are all over this recruitment agency's Facebook page. It's called Link for Staff. It's owned by Janet Mosquito. She claims to have helped hundreds of newcomers.
Everything's a lie.
John Kizo wishes he'd never met her. In March 2023, the international student says he paid the recruiter nearly $3,000 to help him find a job and work permit.
It's really hard
He
to
dropped
find
out of
a
college,
work permit.
and Mosquito found him a job, but she never came through with the work permit. Kizo's now living in this homeless shelter, broke and unable to work legally.
I cannot pay the debt. I can't find a job. I can't even support my son.
35 people she scammed with illegal recruitment fees. Still allowed to operate. How's that for protecting temporary foreign workers? How's that for compassion out of Canada's Liberal government? Now, this illustrates a pervasive issue in the TFW program. Abusers of this program often go unpunished in any meaningful way. Many abusers of this program are simply paying the fines given to them by the government, and then they're still eligible to bring in more temporary foreign workers even after violating the program's rules. Now, Diverge Media, we went through 46 pages, 46, of companies that were deemed to be in non-compliance with the government's requirements. Many were still eligible for the program even after refusing to hand over paperwork to investigators and falsely advertising wages. So you keep seeing this, Michelle Rumpel-Garner, I put it in the article too, but, Booster Juice is hiring for $36 an hour. No, they're not. Highly unlikely. I don't know Booster Juice in particular on this particular company, but I find it hard to believe that many of these companies are paying like $36 an hour for a cook position or for these entry-level positions when I used to operate hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment on the mine making $36 an hour. I had a skill set that was in demand running very expensive equipment. I was making $36 an hour, but I can go do that making booster juice or something to that effect. I find it highly unlikely, and this goes into not focusing in on booster juice, but again, what we found when we went through the non-compliant companies is that many refused to hand over paperwork to investigators and were falsely advertising wages. So I find it hard to believe that these jobs are actually paying this. And if they were, obviously you'd have lineups of Canadians being willing to, make juice, make coffee, cook pizza for $30+ an hour. It's just obviously that's not true. And the Liberal pundits that keep defending it, unreal that we can't see this for what it is. Obviously that's not the case in many of these scenarios. Now, what's even more ludicrous is that some of these employers that were still eligible for the program, after it was found they didn't put in enough effort to ensure the workplace was free from physical abuse, sexual abuse, psychological abuse, financial abuse, and to assure there wasn't reprisal against temporary foreign workers. Imagine a company is found guilty of not ensuring their workplace was free from physical abuse, sexual abuse, psychological abuse, financial abuse, or ensuring there wasn't reprisal against temporary foreign workers for speaking about their mistreatment. And they're still allowed to operate and be eligible for the program. That's how the Liberals are running this. It's It's beyond reprehensible. It's disgusting. Now, we went through a short list of non-compliant companies, and we put them in the article. But like, for instance, one company, Jeremy Small Boat Repair and Fishing Limited in Tuscan, Nova Scotia, still eligible for the program after a $10,000 fine. Found guilty of, it says, provisions 8 and 9, and we'll just read out those provisions now. 8 is the employer broke federal, provincial, or territorial laws for hiring and recruiting employees in the province or territory where the foreign national worked. So they broke federal, provincial, or territorial laws. Right there. Done. You're not getting, you don't get the pass go, you don't get to pay the fine, but the Liberal government says, hey, just hand us some money, it's okay, man. That's all right that you literally broke the law. Just pay us 10 grand, you're still eligible. Number 9 is the pay or working conditions didn't match or were not better than what was listed on the offer of employment, or the job was not the same as what was listed on the offer of employment. So essentially they weren't honest with what the pay was or what the job description was. Still allowed to operate. And there was lots of provision 9s that were broken. And the other one was provision 6, which was another one that really bothers me. How are you still eligible? It says the employer didn't give the inspector the documents they asked for. Now, one of the things they can ask for, the investigators can ask for, is, hey, show us all the applications from Canadian applicants that you've received, and you need to kind of tell us why they're not qualified and why you still need a temporary foreign worker. There were so many non-compliant under this provision that were still eligible. It's beyond... Like, again, the word of today is disgusting. You refuse to hand over paperwork. And again, so like, they ask for, let's say for argument's sake, hey, we need to know how many Canadians apply. Yeah, I'm not going to hand that over to you. Okay, well, here's a $5,000 or $10,000 fine. You pay it, you can still be eligible under the program. Like, are you kidding me? And you're going to try to look the Canadian public in the eye with a straight face and say, we need more of this? Really? We need more abuse like this. We need more scummy employers being able to exploit workers and get away with things like literally not handing over documentation. And it's like all they have to do is pay a fine. It's a pretty good system for them. Pretty good system for scummy employers and consultants. Terrible system for Canadians and youth. What makes the situation worse is that if temporary foreign workers were to complain that they aren't receiving their wages, that they were promised, or had unfair working conditions, their employer can just fire them. They'll be sent home. Do you see how this system is so ripe for abuse by scummy employers? The TFW situation, again, so bad that the United Nations says it serves as a breeding ground for contemporary forms of slavery. Other things that were listed in there. We'll continue here. It says, the report also detailed how some employers were housing temporary foreign workers in substandard conditions that included overcrowding, mixed-gendered housing that women had not consented to. Liberals love to, throw, we're the feminist party. We support women. Really? You're supporting a system that is throwing women into mixed-gendered housing that they had not consented to. How's that for feminism? Lack of climate controls, it says, laundry facilities, food preparation and storage areas. There were some situations reported of 20 to 30 people sharing a single washroom. Now, I understand we're all frustrated at these jobs being given to temporary foreign workers that could be going to Canadians. But the flip side of this is it's a multifaceted issue. If we are compassionate as Canadians, we need to recognize these people are often being taken advantage of. 20 to 30 people sharing a single washroom. Lack of climate controls, laundry facilities, food preparation, storage areas, being thrown in the overcrowded, mixed-gendered housing women didn't consent to. And the report exposed that workers were, quote, reluctant to raise issues with their employers or to report exploitive working conditions, fearing that they may be identified as complainants. Because why again? Because the system says, hey, you don't got a job here, you're going home. You really want to speak out? That's the system the Liberals are protecting right now. That's the system that the Conservatives have called to end. Another issue the report detailed was that the inspections of workplaces were often announced ahead of time and gave employers, quote, time to conceal evidence of non-compliance and send away workers who are more likely to speak up. Hey, this is the inspector from the Government of Canada. We're just letting you know we're going to be coming Thursday at 5:30. And just heads up, we're coming. And they go, thanks for the heads up. Hey, you're going home, because we don't want you here. Why? Don't worry about it. You're not going to be here tomorrow. And then it adds 69% of the inspections were done virtually. 69%, so almost 70% of all the inspections done virtually. Yeah, you just lead me around on your cell phone camera. I'm laughing because I don't know what else to do. This is the situation Canadians are in. We have no recourse, and we get lied to again and again. Elbows up, all this crap from our freaking propaganda arms like the CBC, CTV. Give me a break. They protect abuse, and they refuse to stand up for Canadians. The report added also concerns about international students being taken advantage of and workers in the international mobility program. Again, closed work permits. If you don't like it, go home. That's basically the recourse employers have. Now, the program is beyond reprehensible. And we'll get into Amnesty International. Amnesty International now interviewed 44 workers and found that most of them had reported. You ready for this? Oh, $36 an hour for this job. They interviewed 44 workers, Amnesty International found that most of them reported unpaid wages, excessive working hours. Some contracts that Amnesty International reviewed stipulated 0 rest days, and some workers reported to being subjected to racist language by their employers and supervisors. Racist language by their employers and supervisors, including being called donkeys, Indians, and shitty Mexicans. This is the system you're protecting. Yeah, 44 workers interviewed. Most of them reported unpaid wages, excessive working hours. You don't like it? We're going to send you home. That's the system that you're protecting. TFWs are being used where they aren't needed as well. Another example of the rampant abuse of TFWs is in the trucking industry. Freight levels, according to the Canadian Trucker Association, are at 40-year lows. And yet, surprise, the Liberal government still approving applications for trucking positions in populated areas like Brampton. 40-year lows. We talked to a trucker, 10 years, has been in the industry. Sat at home for 2 weeks without work because they couldn't receive any one contract to pay them enough to cover their gas and their maintenance, let alone make a profit. But yet, on top of that, 40-year lows in freight, and yet, Canadian government under the Liberals says, you know what? Approved. We need more truckers. Stop pretending like this is anything other than corruption and abuse of a system. And the worst part of it is people are caught in the crosshairs. Now, if Canada has the worst freight market in 40 years due to overcapacity, right? It says worst freight market in 40 years due to overcapacity, poor North American market conditions, and it says an out-of-control underground economy that is driving compliant fleets out of business. So we have the worst freight market in 40 years due to overcapacity. So why is the Liberal government approving more temporary foreign workers for trucking positions? It's almost like they hate Canada. Or I don't want to attribute that to anyone. But either you are completely arrogant, ignorant of the situation and you don't care, or you hate the country. There can't be an in-between. You're either stupid on the issues, willfully stupid, you care more about your own personal gain than Canadians, or you hate Canada and you want to see it crumble. Now, what Canadians wouldn't want jobs like this? Another issue that became clear when examining the Canada Job Bank postings for temporary foreign workers is that so many of these jobs, if they actually paid the wages and salaries posted with them, would have Canadians lining up down the street to work for them. Seriously, we can't find a bookkeeper in Surrey, BC that's willing to work for $37.50 an hour? There's no Canadians interested in being a drywall install supervisor in Calgary, Alberta for $38.46 an hour. I find it hard to believe no Canadians willing to work as a cook in a pizza restaurant for $36 an hour, and we can't find any roofers in Mississauga? Can't find any roofers in Mississauga willing to work for $36 to $38 an hour. No Canadians willing to become a food supervisor at Mary Brown's in Bowmanville, Ontario for $36 an hour. That's why they have an open LMIA assessment so they can hire temporary foreign workers. Can't find any Canadians willing to be a food service supervisor for $36 an hour. I made $36 an hour driving literal like hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment on the mine. I could have made that working at Mary Brown's. Are you kidding me? But we can't find Canadians. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. I'll let you do your own gut check with that. But like, I have a very hard time believing they're paying that. And then as we see, like when we went through the program, lots of non-compliance for that. Lots of non-compliance for falsely advertising wages. Now, it's obvious in my view that these employers have no intention of hiring Canadians. Many of them. What Canadian is turning down these jobs for that kind of money? And I'll just close on this. The temporary foreign worker program is modern day slavery. It is allowing for foreigners to be taken advantage of, and it is driving down wages for Canadians. It is taking jobs from our youth. The Conservatives are completely right in calling for an end for the temporary foreign worker program. It is a step in the right direction, but it's not enough. It's not enough. International students is another one that needs to be addressed. 500,000 roughly a year are able to come in and work 24 hours a week. And there is a place potentially for temporary foreign workers, and I believe the Conservatives pointed this out as well. Agriculture and seasonal jobs, specifically seasonal agriculture. That's about the only use it should be used for. Outside of that, liberals that are defending this, you are defending the exploitation, abuse of foreigners. As a scummy employer, if I have the option of, I'm going to have a Canadian that maybe is going to push back, know their rights, not be willing to deal with shift change at last minute notices, are not going to deal with terrible work conditions, are going to be vocal about that and inform other staff members of their rights. Or I can bring in somebody on an exploitive system. There, if you talk the wrong way, speak to me the wrong way, don't like the working conditions, you don't like the fact that you're working all the time, if you don't like that, we'll send you home. I bet you scummy employers really like that program. And that's what we're seeing in Canada. I'm Greg Staley of Diverge Media. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this. I don't know what to say at this point. I really don't know what to say. Elbows up, right?